Hey, what's up? This is Dustin Jones, and I'm doing a short video over my third Specto assignment. Having some issue with the lighting bouncing off my glasses and my screen really getting bright on me as I'm recording, but we'll iron those out a little bit later on. This is supposed to be short, so I wanted to go over some of the points of my Specto. I chose the um, second option, which is pretty much just deep diving into a topic with AV, and I did intellectual freedom because I'm a teen librarian, and I feel like a lot of the issues of censorship kind of revolve around youth and where adult and youth issues kind of clash. And I thought that would be interesting to dive into, and I found a lot of really cool stuff. Also, I need to excuse my sump pump. I'm recording in my basement, which is where I do most of my homework, and it's rained here a lot, and I can't stop it at all, or my basement will flood. So if you hear what sounds like a washer going, it's my sump pump, so I apologize for that. We'll iron all this out for the other projects. Um, so the basis of it, I said I was a teen librarian, so I was interested in the topic. So I focused on a couple core cases. We were supposed to choose four, and in this video, I'm really going to highlight my two favorite cases, or the two what I feel like are most interesting, ones you may have not have heard before. The first case involves video games. I've talked a little bit about in the class before about my love of video games, and this is the first case involves cryptocurrency and video games and the interaction at my own personal library setting. And I'll kind of get into that now. So there is an article you can find from Calum Leslie, and I posted this and linked it in the works cited page. Where you'll find there's this ecosystem within video games, and specifically within the Steam video game library, which is much like the iTunes. It's kind of the biggest library of video games. So it's where you would go to download them onto your computer if you're a PC gamer. In this, it has like this kind of like open commerce market system associated with it, so that as you're playing games, you're getting items that have a pseudo real world value. And what was happening in 2016 was there was a lot of marketing going on outside from third-party companies to take these items that have some sort of real-world value. It's intended initially for you to be able to take those items, sell them, and buy other games on the marketplace, but clever coders found ways to actually hook that up to your PayPal wallet. And it breaks the terms of service, but it's gone on for years and years and years as Steam has been a platform. So how this relates to my libraries and censorship is that when I have some video games open in the library and they're on PC games and they're using Steam, some of my students are actually by default earning something that has a pseudo monetary worth, similar to a cryptocurrency. And this and the video game world led to those things being used as betting items, and it was unregulated because it's a pseudo cryptocurrency. It has no direct to pocket value, even though you could make a pretty good argument that it does. So I just thought it was really interesting that kind of overlay of I can't turn that feature off in Steam. I can't stop these items that have a monetary value being dropped. Now, in the case of my library, the items that usually pop out when you're playing some of these free games have very little monetary worth. We're talking under $1, pennies mostly, less than pennies, fractions of pennies. Still, but there's kind of like this ebbing issue there of my students are using library accounts that I have set up and built to play games, and they are earning those library accounts some sort of value in a monetary sense. If it's not monetary, it's value in a crypto sense, and it kind of gets into these really weird nebulous things like, do I choose not to use the biggest gaming platform because of this? When they have a lot of free games that really like helps me get through my budget. It's kind of a dicey gray area, and that's one of the things that I found happens a lot when I started looking up censorship is that the gray areas where the rubber meets the road are usually really difficult. Okay, overall, we can easily say, yeah, it's probably not a good idea for children to be using library accounts to earn something that's worth a penny. That sounds like a really bad idea. Uh, but when you can't turn it off, and that's the need and want of my community, where that's how they interface with video games, it becomes kind of an issue that gets larger. So that's one of the things I wrote about. A lot of my Specto is kind of me kind of like honestly thinking about stuff and trying to find research and or articles written about these things, or me kind of looking at something that could that was close to me somewhere in Indiana. So my second interesting case I want to talk about is the um, drag queen story time. Issues that happened in 2017 and 2018 here in Indiana. In 2017, the Indianapolis Public Library hosted two events, one at Clues at Butler, and the other was at the Central Library, where they hired the Indie Bag Ladies, which is an LGBT group that spends a lot of their time raising awareness and funds for fundraisers. They I should back up. The NDPL looked at some libraries in San Francisco and New York. They're having these successful programs where basically the kids are encouraged to dress up as pirates in one event or superheroes in the other, and drag queens and kings come and read story times to them. It's meant to be this kind of like inclusive learning opportunity and fun and lighthearted, and it was really successful for IPL in 2017. So then in 2018, Evansville, Vanderburgh Public Library tried to and did replicate an event like this. But what they found was they had a lot of backlash from it. One was from a specific senator who put up a petition that he promoted heavily through Twitter, and like one of his initial Twitter posts said, asking all parents, community members, and leaders and constituents to demand this, being the drag queen story time, and other immoral library programs to be stopped. That petition ended up gaining 3,023 votes, which the site said 1,954 for Evansville itself. But that's where we kind of saw an opportunity, the politician trying to make an opportunity for censorship from the outside of the library. There's an article written from an Evansville reporter that said the community of Evansville had been asking for that event because they were curious about it. They had heard about the success at IPLs, and that was something they were really interested in bringing in their community. And so EVPL responded with making it happen after they talked to their board. But the outside, the politics backlash, put a strain on it. It became pseudo-national news, where the newspapers that were syndicated through the USA Today brought it to the forefront of their content sites. So this kind of a weird issue of censorship clashing against the inclusivity that the library was trying to provide and that had been asked for specifically by their patrons. So I just thought this was a really cool example because Evansville ended up having the event. They stood their ground and they supported the LGBT community and their community of users in doing the event they asked for, even though they had to fight against it to do what was right by ALA and their community standards. I thought that was really interesting and important that even though it kind of veers a little bit from AV, just that the clash of censorship, and this was about the story times were for children, if I didn't say that. So you see this clash. It's always about children. Each time these censorship things tend to happen, it's usually about protecting a child. And that's kind of like the gray area, because I think the censor's main point is, hey, we should protect children, and I think we all say, yeah, absolutely. But it's the how and the why and the where that always complicate matters. That's what I learned and continue to experience through my Specto. So I hope this was not overly long, and I hope it was interesting, and that when you dive into my paper, you find something useful. So I hope everybody has a great day. Thank you.